The emergency beacon shrieked through Sector 9 like a dying star, and I, Commander Torin of the Galactic Observation Fleet, made what might have been the worst decision of my 17-cycle career. I decided to investigate. "Sir, that frequency is coming from Earth," my navigation officer Krell muttered, his 3 eye stalks retracting in what I'd learned meant disgust. "You know, the planet with those humans." Oh, I knew. Everyone in the fleet knew about humans. They were the galaxy's newest addition to the Confederation, and in the 2 standard years since first contact, they'd managed to violate 63 safety protocols, start 2 accidental diplomatic incidents, and somehow survive both. The standing joke was that humans had a death wish, but kept forgetting to actually die. "Plot a course," I ordered, ignoring the collective groan from my bridge crew. "It's probably nothing. Maybe one of their scientists got stuck in a waste disposal unit again." That had actually happened. Twice. With the same scientist. The beacon originated from Research Station Helix, a joint operation between the Confederation and Earth's scientific community. The station floated in orbit around a barren moon, its white hull gleaming against the black void like a pearl someone had carelessly tossed into an ocean. As we approached, I noticed the exterior showed no signs of damage. No hull breaches, no scorch marks, no evidence of the explosion that the beacon type suggested. "Krell, run a bioscan," I said, settling deeper into my command chair. "Tell me what's alive on that station." His claws danced across the sensor array, and then he froze. All 3 eyes swiveled toward me in perfect synchronization, which never meant good news. "Sir, I'm detecting 17 life signs. 16 are huddled in the central control room." He paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "1 is in the biological research wing, alone." "Let me guess. The one alone is human." "Yes, sir." "How did you know?" Because of course it was. Humans had this peculiar habit of wandering off during emergencies, usually to do something monumentally stupid that somehow worked out in their favor. The galaxy's luckiest idiots, as my old instructor used to say. We docked without incident, and I assembled a security team. 3 of my best soldiers, each armed with plasma rifles and wearing full combat armor, for a rescue mission at a research station. My crew probably thought I'd gone paranoid, but they hadn't read the classified reports about human behavior during crisis situations. The airlock hissed open, and we stepped into chaos. Papers floated through the corridors in 0 gravity. Equipment dangled from emergency straps. Someone's lunch, a sad-looking sandwich in a plastic container, drifted past my head like a bewildered satellite. "Control room is that way," Krell's voice crackled through my helmet communicator. He'd stayed on the ship, safely behind several inches of military-grade shielding. "The lone human is 3 sections over, in Lab 7. "We'll get the group first," I decided, moving toward the control room with my team flanking me. Safety in numbers. The control room door had been magnetically sealed from the inside, which explained why they couldn't evacuate. I overrode the lock with my command codes, and the door slid open to reveal 16 terrified researchers from various species. They pressed against the far wall, eyes wide, all talking at once in a babble of galactic standard and native languages. One at a time, I raised all 4 of my arms for silence. What happened here? A Vordelian scientist, her crystalline skin flickering with distress, pushed forward. Her name badge read, Dr. Ilana Vresh. "It's Marcus. He's gone mad. He's down in Lab 7 with that creature." My stomach, if you could call the bioprocessing sac in my torso a stomach, clenched. "What creature?" "The Turanian honey badger," she wailed. "We were conducting behavioral studies on Earth fauna, comparing aggression responses to galactic standard predators. Marcus was supposed to sedate it for transport to the habitat dome, but something went wrong. The animal escaped, and Marcus went after it. Alone, he sealed the lab sections behind him and cut communications. We heard sounds. Terrible sounds, and then nothing for the last 45 minutes. A honey badger. I pulled up my datapad and searched the Earth creature database. a recent addition to our scientific archives. The entry made me wish I'd called in sick today. Honey badger, Mellivora capensis, Earth classification, Mustelidae family. Average weight, 7 to 16 kilograms. Distinctive features, fearless disposition, extreme aggression, documented cases of attacking creatures 50 times its size. Thick skin resistant to bee stings, porcupine quills, and most earth predator bites. Known to fight off lions, hyenas, and leopards. Human colloquial designation, world's most fearless animal, according to Earth's historical Guinness records. There was more, but I'd read enough. Humans had brought one of their planet's most psychotic predators onto a research station, and now one of their own was locked in a lab with it. "Why didn't you vent the lab section?" I demanded. "Emergency protocol dictates." "Marcus disabled the override," another scientist shouted. This one a Kelvarite with panic pheromones practically visible in the air around him. "He said we'd kill the animal if we vented the atmosphere. He said he could handle it." Of course he did. Because humans looked at certain death and said, "Yeah, I can handle that." I'd seen it before. A human cargo hauler once wrestled a zero-gravity plasma leak into submission with his bare hands and a fire extinguisher. Another human engineer repaired a reactor core while it was still technically exploding. They were all insane. "Stay here," I told the researchers. "Seal this door behind us. My team and I will retrieve your colleague." I paused. Or what's left of him. The walk to Lab 7 felt longer than it should have. The station's emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly red glow. Our boots mag-locked to the floor with rhythmic clanks that echoed through empty corridors. My team stayed alert, weapons ready, though I wasn't sure what good plasma rifles would do against a creature that apparently shrugged off lion attacks. We reached the lab section door. It was sealed, but not magnetically. Someone had manually welded it shut from the other side. I stared at the crude metalwork, rough and hasty. "He welded himself in," Sergeant Dax observed, her tactical visor scanning the door. "With the animal?" "Humans," I sighed. "Scan the room. Tell me what we're dealing with." Dax worked her equipment, and her mandibles went slack. "Sir, I'm detecting one human life sign. Elevated heart rate, but stable. And, sir, I'm detecting the honey badger, also alive. Both of them are moving, but the movements are synchronized." "What does that mean, synchronized?" "I don't know, sir. My sensors aren't designed to interpret this kind of data. We need to go in." I pulled my plasma cutter from my belt and began slicing through the welded seam. The metal glowed orange, then white, and finally separated with a hiss of equalizing atmosphere. The door swung open. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Lab 7 was a disaster. Equipment lay scattered everywhere. A containment cage hung twisted from the ceiling, its bars bent at impossible angles. The walls bore deep gouges, as if something with very sharp claws had redecorated with rage as its primary design principle. And in the center of this destruction, sitting cross-legged on the floor, was a human male in a tattered lab coat. Marcus Reeve, according to his badge. Brown hair, brown eyes, somewhere in his third decade. He looked completely relaxed, eating what appeared to be synthesized jerky from a ration pack. And in his lap, curled up like the galaxy's most dangerous house cat, was the honey badger. The creature was smaller than I'd imagined, but no less terrifying. Thick black and white fur covered a muscular body built like a tiny tank. Its claws, each one easily capable of shredding my pressure suit, rested gently on Marcus's leg. And it was making a sound, a deep rumbling that my translator couldn't quite process. "Oh, hey!" Marcus looked up, smiling like we'd just arrived for a scheduled meeting instead of a rescue operation. "Took you guys long enough. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about us." My team aimed their weapons at the honey badger. The creature's eyes snapped open, revealing black orbs that held absolutely zero fear. It growled, low and threatening. "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Marcus held up his hands. "Easy, everyone calm down. Badger, these are friends. Friends, this is Badger." "You named it Badger?" I managed to ask, my translator probably adding several layers of disbelief to my tone. Oh, well, yeah. She's a badger. Seemed appropriate. He scratched behind the creature's ears, and the growling turned back into that rumbling sound. She's actually really sweet once you get to know her. Sweet, I repeated. Marcus Reeve, we received an emergency beacon. The entire research staff believes you're dead or dying. There's a notation in the Earth database about honey badgers being the most fearless and aggressive creature on your planet. And you're sitting here calling it sweet. Marcus shrugged. Oh, that. Yeah, there was a bit of a misunderstanding at first. Badger got out of her cage because someone, not naming names, forgot to properly secure the quantum lock. She was scared, lashed out a bit, tore through the lab. Standard stuff. Standard? For a honey badger, yeah. So I sealed the sections to keep everyone safe, and then I sat down and waited. Waited for what? For her to calm down. He said it like it was obvious. See, everyone thinks honey badgers are these rage-fueled killing machines, but that's not the whole picture. They're fearless, sure, they'll fight anything, but they're also incredibly intelligent, curious, and capable of forming bonds. You just have to speak their language. Sergeant Dax lowered her weapon slightly. And what language is that? Marcus grinned. Respect. I didn't run, didn't threaten her, didn't try to dominate her. I just sat down, made myself small, and showed her I wasn't afraid, but I also wasn't challenging her. Took about 3 hours, but eventually she got curious, came over, sniffed me thoroughly, and decided I was acceptable. We've been hanging out ever since. The honey badger yawned, showing teeth that could probably bite through my armor plating, and then nestled deeper into Marcus's lap. Unbelievable, I muttered. You domesticated one of Earth's apex predators in 3 hours? Oh, she's not domesticated. That's an important distinction. We've just reached an understanding. She trusts me, I trust her, and we're good. He paused, looking down at the creature with genuine affection. Badgers get a bad reputation because they're fighters, but they fight because they're small. On Earth, being small means everything wants to eat you. So they evolved to fight back so hard that nothing thinks they're worth the effort. It's not aggression, it's survival. I holstered my plasma cutter and approached slowly, very slowly. The honey badger watched me with calculating eyes. So what now? We can't exactly walk her back to the habitat dome like a pet. Why not? Marcus asked. She's calm, I'm calm. Just give us some space and we'll relocate her together. No sedation needed. Every regulation I'd ever learned screamed at me to say no. To stun them both, separate them. Do this by the book. But I'd been in the observation fleet long enough to know that sometimes, especially with humans, the book was wrong. Fine, I said, but my team escorts you. And if that animal so much as twitches wrong, she won't, Marcus interrupted. Will you, Badger? The honey badger made a chirping sound that my translator interpreted as contentment. I'd probably need to file 17 different reports about this. We made our way back through the station, a bizarre parade of heavily armed soldiers surrounding a human carrying a creature that could theoretically kill all of us. The researchers in the control room gaped as we passed. Dr. Vresh looked like she might faint. The habitat dome was a large biosphere attached to the station's lower deck, designed to house various Earth creatures in climate-controlled environments. Marcus carried Badger inside, and I watched through the observation window as he gently set her down in a section that had been prepared with rocks, logs, and a small den. The honey badger sniffed around, exploring her new space. Then she turned back to Marcus, made that chirping sound again, and touched her nose to his hand before wandering off to investigate a hollow log. Marcus rejoined us outside the dome, sealing the airlock behind him. His lab coat was shredded, his hair was a mess, and he had scratches on his arms that probably needed medical attention. But he was grinning. See? All good. No drama, no casualties, just a successful relocation of a magnificent Earth predator to a safe environment where we can study her behavior without anyone freaking out. You welded yourself into a room with an angry honey badger. I said flatly. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds reckless. It was reckless. But it worked. He spread his arms wide. That's the human way, Commander. We see a problem, we adapt, we figure it out. Sometimes the solution isn't in the protocol manual. Sometimes you just have to sit down with the scariest thing in the room and show it you're not afraid to be friends. I wanted to argue. I wanted to cite regulations and safety procedures and all the logical reasons why what he'd done was monumentally stupid. But as I looked at the honey badger in her habitat, curled up peacefully in her den, and then at Marcus with his ridiculous grin, I realized something. Humans weren't lucky idiots. They were something far more terrifying. They were optimists with the skills to back it up. They looked at the universe's dangers and said, I can work with that. And somehow, impossibly, they made it true. I'm writing a report about this, I told him. Make sure you spell my name right, he replied. Marcus. People always mess that up. As we left the habitat dome, Krell's voice crackled through my communicator. Sir, the station director wants to know if we can call off the emergency status. I looked back at Lab 7, still a disaster zone that would take weeks to repair. Then at the habitat dome, where the galaxy's most fearless creature napped peacefully because a human had decided to befriend it instead of fight it. Tell them it's all clear, I said. Just another day working with humans. And that, I was learning, meant anything could happen. Absolutely anything. 3 days after the honey badger incident, I thought my life might return to normal. I was wrong. So catastrophically wrong that I should have known better, especially where humans were involved. Commander Torin, you need to see this. Krell's voice held that particular tone of bewildered horror I'd come to associate with human-related situations. Station Helix is calling again. I closed my eyes and counted to 7, which was the Valorian equivalent of taking a deep breath. What is it this time? Did Marcus teach the honey badger to play chess? Actually, sir, it's worse. Much worse. Of course it was. I pulled up the communication feed, and Dr. Vresh's face appeared on my screen. Her crystalline features flickered with colors I'd never seen before, which my database helpfully informed me indicated extreme confusion mixed with reluctant admiration. Commander, we have a situation that doesn't quite qualify as an emergency, but definitely requires your expertise with human behavior. Go on, I said, already regretting this conversation. It's Marcus and the honey badger. They've formed what he calls a working partnership. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. Commander, the honey badger is helping with research now. I stared at the screen. Repeat that? The animal is participating in scientific experiments voluntarily. Marcus has somehow trained her to assist with tasks requiring small spaces and problem-solving. Yesterday, she retrieved a data module from inside a ventilation shaft that 3 of our drones couldn't reach. This morning, she helped identify weaknesses in our security system by breaking into 4 locked storage units. She broke into storage. Marcus calls it security testing. He says Badger is demonstrating advanced cognitive mapping and tool usage. The animal used a bent piece of wire to pick a magnetic lock, Commander. She picked a lock. This couldn't be real. I was hallucinating. Maybe I'd inhaled some spores from that Kelverite scientist's panic pheromones. Why are you telling me this? Because the Confederation Science Council heard about it. They want to observe. They're sending a delegation to study human-animal cooperation, and they've requested your presence as the official observation fleet liaison. Dr. Vresh's image flickered. They arrive in 6 hours. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to retire. I wanted to go back to my old assignment mapping empty sectors where nothing ever happened. Instead, I said, we'll be there. 6 hours later, I stood in Station Helix's main conference room with what had to be the most bizarre collection of beings I'd ever seen assembled in one place. The Science Council delegation consisted of 5 species, each representing different scientific disciplines. They all looked skeptical, which I understood completely. Dr. Kelvin Mort, The Council's xenobiology lead, an Athaxian with too many degrees and not enough common sense, tapped his datapad impatiently. Where is this human and his supposed trained predator? I've reviewed the Earth creature database. Honey badgers are solitary, aggressive, and completely unsuitable for domestication or cooperation. He's not wrong, muttered my security officer Dax, standing beside me. This should be impossible. The door slid open, and Marcus walked in wearing a clean lab coat that somehow already had mysterious stains on it. The honey badger trotted beside him, a small harness around her body connected to what looked like a modified datapad. Sorry we're late, Marcus said cheerfully. Badger was investigating some interesting sounds in the ventilation system. Turned out to be a loose panel. Already reported it to maintenance. The council members stared. One of them, a floating gas being named Whisper Current 7, made a sound like wind through broken glass. My translator rendered it as, "This is a joke, yes?" "No joke," Marcus replied. "This is Badger. She's my research partner, security consultant, and honestly, she's better at finding problems than most of our diagnostic equipment." The honey badger sat down, looking utterly unimpressed by the assembled scientific elite of the galaxy. Her black eyes swept the room with an intelligence that made me deeply uncomfortable. Dr. Mort stepped forward, his sensor array extended. "I would like to conduct a behavioral analysis, standard cooperation tests, problem-solving exercises, social bonding measurements." "Sure," Marcus agreed. "Badger loves a challenge." "What did you have in mind?" What followed was the strangest 3 hours of my military career, and I once witnessed a Kelverite accidentally turn himself inside out during a teleportation experiment. The council set up a series of tests designed to measure animal intelligence and cooperation. First was a simple puzzle box containing food. Most Earth creatures took several minutes to figure it out. Badger demolished it in 45 seconds, using her claws to pry open a panel that wasn't even part of the intended solution. "Interesting," Dr. Mort admitted. She rejected the designed pathway and created her own. That suggests advanced problem-solving. "She doesn't like being told how to do things," Marcus explained. "Very independent. I respect that about her." The second test involved navigating a maze to reach Marcus, who waited at the end. Badger completely ignored the maze, climbed the wall using her claws, ran along the top edge, and dropped directly onto Marcus's shoulders. "That's cheating," one council member protested. "That's efficiency," Marcus countered, scratching Badger behind her ears. "Why waste time when there's a better solution? She's brilliant." Test 3 required Badger to work with Marcus to solve a 2-person puzzle, each controlling different elements to open a locked container. This was designed to measure cooperation and communication between species. According to the council, most Earth animals would fail completely. Marcus and Badger looked at the setup for approximately 10 seconds. Then Marcus said, "Okay, Badger, left panel, 3rd button from the top. I'll handle the sequence timer." The honey badger moved to the panel, studied it briefly, and pressed the indicated button with her paw. Marcus worked his controls. They moved through the puzzle like they'd practiced for months, communicating through gestures, sounds, and what appeared to be mutual understanding. The container opened in 2 minutes flat. The council went silent. Dr. Mort's sensor array drooped. "This is unprecedented. The level of interspecies cooperation, the communication without formal language, the mutual trust required for such coordinated action." "How long did you train her?" "I didn't train her," Marcus said. "We learned together. That's the difference. I didn't impose my will or try to dominate her. We built a partnership based on mutual respect and understanding. She knows I won't hurt her, I know she won't hurt me, and we both benefit from working together." Whisper Current 7 made that broken glass sound again. "Humans are defying every principle of xenobiology we have established. This creature should be attacking you, not cooperating with you." Marcus shrugged. "Maybe your principles are missing something. Earth has thousands of years of human-animal partnerships. Dogs, cats, horses, birds, even dolphins and elephants. We've learned that cooperation works better than domination. You just have to meet the animal on their terms, not yours. But honey badgers are known for their aggression, another council member protested. Sure, when threatened or provoked. But Badger's not threatened here. She's safe, fed, mentally stimulated, and has a companion who respects her abilities. Why would she be aggressive? Marcus looked down at the honey badger, who was now investigating Dr. Mort's sensor array with obvious curiosity. She's fearless, not mindless. There's a difference. Dr. Vresh stepped forward, her crystalline features showing colors of excitement. Commander Torin, the implications of this are staggering. If humans can form these partnerships with their own planet's predators, imagine what they could do with other species. Diplomatic relations, cross-cultural understanding, conflict resolution. The human approach to interspecies cooperation could revolutionize how we interact throughout the galaxy. I hadn't considered that angle, but she was right. Humans didn't just survive dangerous situations. They turned them into partnerships. They saw potential allies where others saw threats. We should document this thoroughly, Dr. Mort said, his skepticism replaced by scientific enthusiasm. Study the methodology, understand the psychological frameworks, analyze the communication patterns. This could become a foundation for entirely new fields of xenobiological research. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I'm not. Sure, Badger wants to be a research subject. She's a living being with her own preferences, not a data point. Of course, Dr. Mort agreed quickly. We would maintain ethical standards. Observation only, no invasive procedures. And the animal's comfort takes priority. The honey badger chose that moment to chirp loudly and climb up Marcus's leg, settling on his shoulder. She stared at the assembled council members with what I could only describe as a challenging expression. I think she's saying the meeting is over, Marcus translated. She gets bored with too much talking, needs action and exploration. Fascinating, Dr. Mort breathed. The human interprets behavioral cues with remarkable accuracy. Tell me, Marcus Reeve, how do you know what the creature wants? I pay attention. She's not subtle. When she's bored, she fidgets. When she's curious, her ears perk up. When she's content, she makes that purring sound. It's not complicated if you actually watch and listen instead of just assuming you know everything. That statement hung in the air like a challenge. The Science Council, comprised of the galaxy's intellectual elite, had just been lectured on observation skills by a human whose lab coat had a peanut butter stain on it. Whisper Current 7 drifted closer to me. Commander Torin, your reports about human unpredictability were accurate. They continue to surprise us at every turn. You have no idea, I replied. This is actually one of their calmer accomplishments. Last month, a human engineer on Sector 12 fixed a quantum drive malfunction by hitting it with a wrench at precisely the right angle while singing something called a show tune. That's impossible. That's humans. The council spent another hour documenting Badger's abilities, testing her problem-solving skills, and observing her interactions with Marcus. Every test reinforced the same conclusion. Humans had somehow cracked a code for interspecies cooperation that the rest of the galaxy had missed entirely. As the official meetings wrapped up, Dr. Mort approached me privately. Commander, I need to revise my initial assessment. Humans are not reckless or lucky. They possess an intuitive understanding of behavioral dynamics that transcends language and cultural barriers. It's almost as if they can perceive the underlying motivations and emotions of other beings without technological assistance. Are you saying humans are psychic? No, I'm saying they're empathetic to a degree we haven't fully appreciated. They don't just observe behavior, they connect with it. They see other beings, even predatory animals, as individuals rather than categories. That honey badger isn't just a specimen to Marcus Reeve. She's Badger, a unique personality with preferences and traits he's taken time to understand and respect. I watched Marcus playing what appeared to be a game with Badger, using a laser pointer to create patterns on the floor that she chased with obvious enjoyment. The most fearless creature on Earth, reduced to playing like a kitten. Because a human had shown her she could trust him. "We need more humans in the Confederation," Dr. Mort continued. "Not just as members, but as teachers. They could help us bridge gaps between species that we've considered impossible to cross." "That's a terrifying thought," I admitted, "but probably a necessary one." The delegation departed that evening, their data stores full of observations and their minds full of questions. I stayed behind to finalize reports and ensure Station Helix returned to normal operations. Marcus found me in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Badger wasn't with him, sleeping peacefully in her habitat dome after a long day of showing off. "Thanks for not shutting this down," he said, leaning against the railing beside me. "I know it looked crazy from the outside." "It was crazy," I replied. "Still is. You befriended a creature that the entire galaxy considers untamable. I didn't befriend her because she's untamable. I befriended her because she's incredible, fearless, intelligent, resourceful. Those aren't flaws, they're strengths. Everyone just needed to stop seeing her as a threat and start seeing her as a person. Well, a badger person, you know what I mean." I did know. That was the problem. Humans had this infuriating ability to make the impossible seem obvious in retrospect. "What's next for you two?" I asked. "More security testing? Research assistance?" Marcus grinned. "Actually, I've been thinking. Station Helix could use better emergency response protocols. Badger's really good at finding structural weaknesses and accessing difficult spaces. With proper training, not domination, but partnership training, she could help identify safety issues before they become problems. Maybe even assist with rescue operations." "You want to turn a honey badger into a safety inspector?" "Why not? She's perfect for it. Small, fearless, intelligent, and motivated by interesting challenges. Plus, having her around reminds everyone that sometimes the scariest thing in the room is actually your greatest asset if you're smart enough to work with it instead of against it." I considered this. The Confederation had safety inspectors, mostly drones and automated systems. They were efficient, but limited. A living creature with problem-solving abilities and a human partner who understood her could potentially spot issues that machines missed. "I'll include that in my report," I said, "though I'm not promising the Council will approve it." "They will," Marcus replied confidently, "because deep down, everyone loves a good underdog story. Or under-badger story, in this case." We stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. After a moment, Marcus spoke again, his tone more serious. "You know what the real lesson is here, Commander. It's not that humans are special, or that we have some magical ability. It's that we're willing to try. We see something everyone says is impossible, and we think maybe. But what if it's not? What if the problem isn't the situation, but our approach to it? That's what happened with Badger. Everyone assumed she was uncooperative because that's what honey badgers are supposed to be. But nobody asked if maybe she was just scared, or bored, or looking for purpose. Nobody tried to see it from her perspective. And you did. I did. Because that's what humans do. We mess up, we take risks, we fail spectacularly sometimes. But we also connect. With each other, with animals, with ideas, with possibilities. We're optimists who believe that understanding beats force, that patience beats aggression, and that the scariest thing in the room might just become your best friend if you give it a chance. I turned to look at him fully. "Your species is going to change the galaxy, aren't you?" Marcus smiled. "We're going to try. Can't promise we won't break a few things along the way, but yeah, we're going to try." The next morning I departed Station Helix with my crew, leaving behind a research station that would never be quite the same. As we cleared orbit, Krell turned from his navigation console. "Sir, I've been reviewing the mission logs. Did we really just witness a human domesticate an Earth apex predator through the power of patience and mutual respect?" "We did." "And did the Science Council really endorse this as a revolutionary approach to interspecies relations?" "They did." "And are humans really going to use a honey badger as a safety inspector?" "Apparently." Krell's eye stalks drooped. "Sir, I've served in the observation fleet for 12 cycles. I've seen neutron stars collide, watched civilizations rise and fall, documented phenomena that defied known physics. But humans might be the strangest thing in the universe. They're not strange, I corrected him. They're human. There's a difference. As we jumped to hyperspace, I pulled up my report and added a final note. Recommendation for Confederation leadership. Humanity's integration into galactic society should be expedited. Their unique approach to problem-solving, interspecies cooperation, and persistent optimism represents valuable assets that could benefit all member species. Also, never underestimate what a human can accomplish with enough determination and a honey badger. 3 months later, I received a message from Station Helix. Marcus and Badger had identified 17 safety violations that automated systems had missed, prevented 2 potential hull breaches, and somehow convinced the station director to install better ventilation in the research wings. The Science Council had approved a pilot program for human-animal partnership teams across 5 other stations. And somewhere in the galaxy, a honey badger named Badger was probably breaking into something she shouldn't, while her human partner laughed and took notes. The universe had gotten a lot more interesting since humans joined the Confederation, more chaotic, more unpredictable, more alive. I wouldn't have it any other way.